Welcome back to my channel. Let me tell you guys all about the movies I watched in April of 2026. I started this month off by watching The Godfather, both parts 1 and 2. I'm just going to talk about these together because ultimately it is just a one continuous story. I have not watched part 3 yet, but this was a very interesting experience, really. I mean, I heard so much about these movies, and honestly, at the same time, I've heard so little. I mean, I knew nothing about the plot really, other than that it's about the mafia, and that's pretty much it. So, actually, watching this was really, really interesting. It was strange. You know, this is a movie that has such a huge legacy and such a massive, fan base. People love this, and so anytime I watch one of these movies, it's hard to just go into it completely without any expectations and watch it like any other movie. I don't think I absolutely fell in love with it, like maybe other
So
people
let them
did,
lose their
but it was
souls.
still a great movie. I mean, it is impossible to deny just the pure quality of it.
I
The
hope that we could
storytelling
come
is
here and
really,
reason
really
together.
great, and it's also interesting just how much
And as a
the
reasonable
pacing
man, I'm willing to
really
do
feels
whatever's
like a
necessary.
book. So many movies are based on books, but it feels like they changed so much. And while I haven't read the original Godfather novel, it feels very reminiscent of the pacing of a book, where it doesn't necessarily follow an exact three-act structure. The pacing is a little bit more slower, I would say, than your average movie, and a bit more consistent. Lots more movies will have their rising action, and then they will have their big climax and, a short little conclusion. But this, it just feels like a continuous flow, which I think is more similar to how a novel might be. Really, I wish I did have more to say, but it is difficult. It is just a really quality story, and I think that's all I can really say about it overall. I haven't watched the third one, and I know it's not nearly as popular, but I did also hear that there's like a director's cut that came out just a few years ago, which I had no idea about. Apparently, that's pretty good quality, so I'm excited to check that out and just see what they did going forward with the story. I watched The Prince of Egypt, just a phenomenal DreamWorks movie. DreamWorks is such a interesting company because they are all over the place in terms of quality, but looking at The Prince of Egypt, I mean, it's probably one of the ones that stands out the most because even, their best movies I look at, I think of Kung Fu Panda or How to Train Your Dragon. I mean, The Prince of Egypt is very far removed from anything else they've really done. And so it's a fascinating movie just following a biblical story, and they do it in such an artistic and beautiful way. The animation just so genuinely beautiful. They use a lot of CGI animation, and they actually do it pretty well, mingling it with the 2D animation. And that's something that I know is really hard, and a lot of times you can see that it hasn't necessarily aged super well. We can do that much better these days, but it doesn't remove the fact that there is such strong artistic and creative expression and so much skill involved, where their lack of resources or technology at the time kind of just doesn't matter because it's just so beautiful. That's like the main thing about this movie, is it is just absolutely beautiful, and the score as well is just incredible. It's just a really great experience. I would recommend it to anyone. If you're not interested in the biblical story aspect of it, that I don't think that matters too much because you can just see it as a great artistic experience. Next, I watched Shutter Island. I've been having a really fun time chipping away at Martin Scorsese's filmography over these several months. Obviously, he's a phenomenal director, and just watching these movies for the first
Then they were looking into you.
pretty much know.
All they had to do was fake an escape to get you here, and now they have you. Now they have us both here now.
Another great thriller mystery movie. I think what really makes it a cut above your average mystery, though, is just that it has a lot more interesting elements going on. It takes place at a mental hospital on an island, on Shutter Island, and I think that's just really fascinating, and it just brings it to a point where it's different from your average mystery. There's more interesting things going on. I don't want to say too much. This is a movie that is best viewed when you know nothing about it. It is a mystery, so obviously you have your big reveals and stuff like that, but it is just great. I also watched Twin Peaks. Now, I don't usually talk about TV shows I've watched, mostly because I either don't watch very many or what I do watch isn't really something I feel passionate enough to talk about, but Twin Peaks really is special. Obviously, created primarily by David Lynch, and it does a really great job balancing this incredible mysteries and this atmosphere, keeping David Lynch's surreal style, which is just really, really great. I honestly have not seen a whole lot from David Lynch, and there's something inexplicably sad about not having seen more of his work before he died, but I am glad to be partaking of it now. I only watched the first 2 seasons of Twin Peaks. I'm really excited to keep going. Obviously, I think somewhat famously, the latter half of season 2 of Twin Peaks, aside from the finale, David Lynch really stepped away, and so it is not as quality. But overall, this is a great show. Again, the mystery is great, but what really, I think, keeps me invested is the characters. I love sort of all the weird, quirky characters that fill the town of Twin Peaks, and they really are just super charming. And you really get invested into all their stories. I think it does a good job sort of early on to have these different storylines going on, but then in season 2, when David Lynch steps away, there becomes a lot of different storylines where I don't really care about them, and it's like I don't see where this is all going to, but overall it is still really great quality, and I would even say you can still watch all those episodes in season 2 that maybe aren't as good, because they aren't terrible, they just don't quite live up to the highs. Anyways, I'm really excited to keep going with this and watch Fire Walk with Me and The Return, because those are very, very, completely David Lynch, so I'm excited for that. I rewatched Mirror by Andrei Tarkovsky, and yeah, it is a really, really great movie. There was actually a point partway through this where I was like,
Простите,
"Is
девушка,
this
я на
really that
Тамшино,
great?" When
правильно
I
иду?
first watched it, did
Вам
I
не надо было от
want to
куста
like it more, and
сворачивать.
that's why I ended up, rating it higher and that sort of thing. But the ending really is phenomenal, and so that kind of all brought it together. Overall, this is just a great movie, but a very difficult one. Tarkovsky is very, very artsy, and a lot of his films are very kind of personal. And so I kind of wish I would have maybe done more research about Tarkovsky and his childhood specifically, because that is largely what this film is based around, kind of childhood nostalgia and kind of memories that have been faded or warped by time. And so there's a lot of just interesting things going on, and I can't claim to really understand most of them, but from what I've seen from Tarkovsky, he seems to have a very, not an exact science sort of approach to these kinds of things. It's all about just opening your mind up to it and just letting any sort of thoughts or feelings flow while watching it, which I really like. I think he's a really cool director. I'm kind of still mixed about some of his other pieces, and I do want to get more into him. But yeah, Mirror, it's probably not the best starting point, but it is a really good one, and I would check it out. It's got some fantastic visuals, though, and lots of really kind of moments where you can really feel that sort of personal touch in this movie. The ending, as I said, but many other moments that really, really hit you deep to your soul that you can't really fully explain. And that's everything I watched this month. Please tell me your thoughts on these movies, and I will see you guys next time.